In this video, we'll talk about how we can update our to-do entity and also update our database so that we can know how do we handle situations where we have to update the database, add a column, or remove a column, or also make any changes in the database, and how the database changes should reflect our code and the entity changes. So first, let's get a recap of what we had done in the previous videos. So we have our to-do API. So we have the to-do service, we have the repository, we have the controller, and we have the entity. Now, the entity had ID, name, summary, description. So this is the four attributes which our to-do entity has, and this was controlled by our CUD repository to make sure that we don't write any native SQL queries. And we talked about this in detail in our previous video. Apart from this, we also have our service, which controls all the business logic for our application, which is pretty much CRUD, so which is create, update, delete, nothing fancy here. And next we have a controller, which basically handles all of our API endpoints, so slash to do ID, and the put, post, delete requests of that sort. Now, all of this was initially handled using an in-memory database, which was basically a list, a simple Java list. Then we moved on to Apache Derby, which was an embedded database inside Spring Boot, and we were able to actually eliminate the list code using that. And after that, in our most recent videos, what we did was we had an external database, which was MySQL, and we were able to connect MySQL to our database using the application.properties file. So we have this little file which had all the URL, username, password, and the properties which are required for a database to be connected to Spring Boot. So now in this video, we'll actually update or change our structure of our data so that we can see how what places do we need to change so that these changes can be fitted into our application seamlessly. So the first thing which we need is that let's say I want to make this to do API access or being able to be used collaboratively. So suppose I have a to-do list and I want to send that to a friend of mine, and I send that to a couple of friends. All of us collaboratively work to solve or to finish that to-do list, and there should be an author of all of that to-do list, right? So let's add an author to our entity. So we have string author, and let's make our changes inside our constructor. So we need to add author here, add an author here as well. And the next thing which we need to do is make getters and setters for this. So we need to do a public string get author, which returns author. And now we need a setter, so public void set author, and all this does is instantiates our author. So pretty straightforward, nothing complicated as of now. We just added the author attribute to our to-do entity. So what's the problem here? Yeah, sorry, string author. So we just added the author to our to-do entity, nothing different, nothing complicated here. And as you can see, we don't have any other changes to be made. So if you see the controller, we are not explicitly accessing the to-do object and the attributes inside them. So here we just handle the to-do object as it is. So the object inside consists of all these attributes. So nothing explicitly handled in the controller, nothing in the repository as well. We just have the entire object and the integer, which is the ID. And for to-do service, we also have nothing explicitly being handled. So only change we had to make was inside here, and we are good to go. So this is the change which we had made from the core or the API side, and now we need to make the same change in the database, right? So open MySQL Workbench and make sure that you're connected to your root and have the to-do DB ready in your schema. So now we need to alter the table to add that column, right? So we do use to-do DB so that we'll be using the to-do DB database, and let's write the query. So it's alter table to do and add author is going to be a var char of 64. Yeah, so this is our query. So let's run the query now. So all we are doing is altering the table to do. We are adding author column of varchar 64. So let's just do a run and let's refresh our schema. Let's go inside tables to do columns, and as you can see we have our author ready. So now that we have an author ready, all we have to do is basically run our function, run our API. So let's run it right now. So we have initialized our entities, we have mapped the URLs here, and our API is started. So let's go to Postman and let's do a get first. So let's just do a small get and see what we already have inside. So I'm doing a get. Let's see what we already have. So first we have just one here. We just have a to do of task 2 with author null. So the author has been added now. Let's do a post and have a body. Let's do an ID 3, task also 3, summary 3, and the author is going to be me, so Ronak. Yes. And let's just do a small post and see if that works. So the status is 200. Okay, so I think we executed that. Let's do a get and see what happens. So we do a get and hit a send. Yeah, as you can see, we have added the author as Ronak Vyas. So that is how we actually make changes to our database and also our REST API. So first you need to make the appropriate changes inside your Spring Boot application, and then once that is done, you can make changes to your database. So usually you make the changes to your database, to your Spring Boot application first, because suppose you're working with a lot of people in your team, and everybody in your team is working on the same code on the same database as well. So if somebody is trying out a new feature, then the database is currently being in used. So if you make a new column and then alter the database and add a new column and then start working on your code, somebody who is working on a different uh, feature will not be able to actually access your database, right? Because you have a new column which the person does not know anything about because it's a different feature altogether. So what my suggestion is that first work on the code, make sure that the code is up to the point where you're confident that you can actually make changes to your database now. And once you're confident, then make the change to your database and just let everybody know that I have made this change in your database, and you need to use this so and so and so, and keep working. So that was all for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.